Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems, and with me is Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute.
Persuasion and influence is not always a prepared presentation. It's an overall process, a process of learning about your criteria, audience, building their trust, and building a case that addresses their interests. Today, we will address 6 techniques you can use to apply persuasion with a prospect, customer, or client to invest their funds when budgets are tight. In the words of Zig Ziglar, get out your talking pads, as Bill and I discuss 6 pitching techniques to use when budgets are tight and other interesting topics on episode 567 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Zig Ziglar.
What was that? Was that a good image? So I got out my talking pad and I let them do all the numbers. So when it's their numbers, it's their answers, and when it's their answers, it's their truth. And it makes it a lot easier for them to buy.
You remember everything. I read all this stuff, and I have to read it 500 times. So
my car did not have a cassette player. So I had my boombox tapped into the cigarette lighter for power, and I would drive around to work listening to Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and Warren Bennis and all of these great tapes.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about one of the other greats, and that's Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
We are in part 1, chapter 3. So he divides these into parts, and this is chapter 3 of the end of part 1. And he's talking here about arousing in the other person an eager want. That's the principle that we're going to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about, I like his opening story. He says, I like strawberries and cream, and fish don't like it. So if I try and fish with the strawberries, it's not going to happen. You got to bait your hook with what the fish like, not with what you like.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the whole chapter is about. We spend all of our time thinking about what we want and not enough about what other people want.
Salespeople can do that when they're being assumptive, when they're talking to a prospect, thinking that everybody has a problem and everybody wants to change and everybody wants to buy from them. That's just simply not true.
Well, we do it in all things, really. I see it when I teach public speaking, is that they're thinking about only what they want to accomplish and not about what the other people want. And if we have to think about, and we have to learn, this is all about discovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn about what the other person is interested in, and then we can start driving the sale or the conversation or the relationship or whatever it is that we're trying to do in the right direction. We have to change our mindset from a selfish mindset to a thoughtfulness about the other person.
Yeah, there's another great story about a kid not wanting to go to kindergarten. And the parents are trying to sell the kid on going to kindergarten because you get to do finger painting. And the kid just was not interested in that. And the family was performing an exercise of finger painting at the kitchen table, and the 5-year-old couldn't join them because they had not gone through kindergarten yet, so they didn't know how to finger paint. So when you go to kindergarten, you get to learn how to do finger painting, and then when you come out, you can join us. So okay. So the kid was up before the parent the next morning, eager to go to kindergarten to learn how to do finger painting so that they could enjoy that with the family. It's a fascinating story.
Yeah, I like that. And he also rewrote a couple of letters. He had a letter from a radio advertising firm. All it did was talk about what they want. And he thought, he did the expression of, why are you talking to me about what you want? What do I care about what you want? I got my own problems. And then another trucking firm that was having problems with the timing of shipments. And he rewrote that letter to say, hey, we want to help you in any time, but if we can expedite this better if you give it to us before late in the afternoon. And we have to think about those things so much. We just write everything. We put everything in terms of what I want. I think the one other example he gives is a guy who wants other people to play basketball with him. And he says, hey, I want to play basketball and we don't have enough guys out there and it's no fun without enough guys. And I really want to shoot more and I want to do this. And it's like, man, just think about other people in the ways that you express things, in the way that you verbalize things. What's the old saying? Walk a mile in their moccasins.
Yeah.
Right? Spend some time thinking about what the other person's going through and try to get them to want to do the thing you're trying to do, not force them to do it. And then so many managers do that too. Well, they just say, we need this. I remember a friend of mine was with Toro when they were introducing CRMs, and the people that were selling the CRMs kept saying, "Oh, the management really needs this information, and management
Oh
really
no.
wants this, and and he says, why should the salespeople care about what management
Right.
wants?"
Exactly. Bad.
And it's just so true in all the things that we do, that we focus on what we want. It's such a strong desire, but you've got to subvert that desire, think about what the other person wants, and help them get excited about it.
Right. Right. My mom was involved with an organization, Parent Television Council, which was a group that protected children against advertising. And she went to the annual meeting for General Mills, and the organization had made a press release or an announcement for her to read at the stockholders meeting for General Mills. And I looked at this, and it was all about the Parent Teacher Television Council, everything they did, boom, 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 boom. And then the last thing that that it said was, "And we're here to congratulate General Mills on their advertising." I go, no, this is all screwed up. Let's start with the beginning, saying, "Hi, my name is Phyllis. I'm here from the Parent Television Council, and I'm here to congratulate General Mills on their advertising." And then everybody perked up. You could just see the officers on stage go, oh, what's this about? You're congratulating us. Okay, well, tell me more. And then everybody was tuned in during that reading of what the organization did. Mom made it on the front page of the business section the next morning. She was quoted as to supporting General Mills in their advertising because she set it up from the beginning. I'm here to congratulate you.
That's right.
So
That's
what
right.
tone do you want to set? What do you want them to be aware of? How do you approach a situation like that?
Well, sometimes that's what we need, is somebody from the outside to look at something, right? Somebody who has a different perspective. And when they read something that we wrote, they go, "I can't believe you wrote this." So that's always good. All right. The next part 2, chapter 1, part 2 is called 6 Ways to Make People Like You. And chapter 1 is called Do This and You Will Be Welcome Anywhere. And the principle he's going to talk about, it really ties into the one we just talked about. Become genuinely interested in other people. And he opens it talking about a telephone study that was done. Of course, this was 50 years ago or so, maybe more. But in 500 telephone conversations, the word "I" was used 3,900 times.
Jeez.
That means it's used, 8 times in every conversation. And so we are definitely interested in ourselves. And if we can show that we're interested in other people, they start to think we're a pretty good person to get around. Right? Talk about them, think about them, support them.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a line out of the book, and it's a quote: "You have to be interested in people if you want to succeed as a writer, and a writer of stories." And you think about, what do you need to have as an author, is really a creative mind that is interested and curious about what people do and some of the behaviors that people exercise to be able to understand them a little bit better. And the same principles, relate in selling. Is, you're a writer of stories. Salespeople are a writer of stories. And every time that you engage with a prospect or a customer or a client when they buy, you are a writer of stories. And you can share those stories with prospects, and then prospects will understand what it's like to be a customer and a client of you because of the story that you've created.
Well, we it's so easy for us to just, again, think about our wants and needs. And sometimes other people really, we think, "Oh, they're boring," or "This is a boring story," or we listen to people with just the intent of topping them with a better story. And all those things really, in the long run, turn people off. And we really have to, if we want to become genuinely interested in other people, we really have to subvert what we think about ourselves and just really focus on them. You talked about it. I know I've talked about it before. Become curious about other people. Become curious about their situation. I wonder, what if, how come? Start to think about those things rather than, "I can answer it, let me tell you." And put in your mind those curious questions that will force you to become genuinely interested in other people, and try to like people. He talks about a magician, I think Thurston was his name. And before he would go out on stage, he would do an affirmation. "I love my audience. I love these people. They're great. They're my future." And I see that in a lot of what I'd call movie stars today who are disdainful of their audience. We see advertisers who are disdainful of their customers. I think Bud Light is a big challenge right now. I think they became disdainful of their customer, and their customer said, "Okay,
Yeah.
We'll
We'll
show
go
you.
away.
Yep.
We'll go
There's
away.
other options, baby.
Yeah. I won't share the next thing, but anyway.
Well, we'll limit that conversations, but it to me it is a disdainfulness of your customer.
Yeah, so true.
All right, so to summarize this, find out what other people are interested, support them, show them that you care, don't just say it, and the principle is become genuinely interested in other people. So next week for the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, we will do principle 2 and 3 from part 2. Principles 2 and 3 from part 2.
It's a great book, and just going through a couple of chapters every single week, we're really picking up a good pace of getting through this book quickly. So, great choice, Bill. I'm really getting a lot of.
And go out and do something with these.
Yeah, well, practice it, apply it, try it,
make some application.
And that's how you internalize new behavior. So, our topic today is an article out of the Harvard Business Review, and it's titled 6 Pitching Techniques to Use When Budgets Are Tight. And really want to talk about the difference between persuasion and power. Sometimes it's positional authority, which is power, and sometimes it's influencing authority, which is persuasion. And I choose persuasion over power any day of the week. And the ability to influence, often without having a formal authority. One of the foundational steps of doing that is having a solid relationship. That relationship is built on the market and industry relevance and a strong value proposition. But just like negotiation, the success of selling is in gathering information. So I want to go through these 6 tips on really converting prospects to customers when budgets are tight. And I think
let me say something before we get going.
Yep.
I hate the word pitching.
I know you do.
It just turned me off. The article was good, but these aren't pitches. We're not pitching things. We're not a baseball player. We are influencing people. And I always find that when somebody uses the word pitching, they don't like salespeople because they think they're manipulating.
Or the salespeople are manipulating.
Yeah. Well, they've met salespeople who are manipulating.
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
But a good professional salesperson is not doing that. They're influencing they're not, what you talked about.
Yeah. They're presenting, they're inquiring, they're looking for a fit. And they're looking for somebody that's a qualified prospect, and just, stop wasting people's time in doing that.
If I'm pitching, I'm thinking about me. To go back to the Dale Carnegie
very self-centered.
book, right?
Yeah.
So
right. I'm really surprised that they use that title. But sometimes I think the authors are not really fans of salespeople, so they'll use a word like that in kind of a derogatory way where it's demeaning to salespeople. But like you said, the content is good. And the first one is start with shareholders analysis. So I love this line in the article: designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern. And I tell you, there are many, many companies that have no idea what their audience is when they're talking to them. Advertising, marketing, salespeople talking to a prospect have no idea what the audience is like, what the prospect's challenges are, what their goals are, what the shareholders' goals are, and the cost when there is inaction and not growing and changing within an organization. And it's just sad to see when we don't address things to the person that we're talking to.
I have another name for this. It's called pre-approach and discovery. So, what we're going to find here is the sales techniques, the sales process that Scott and I have talked to you about for 3 years now. But it's important. And whether you call it shareholder analysis or pre-approach and discovery or an audience profile, if you're going to be speaking or presenting to an audience, thinking about what the other person wants and needs. Wait a minute. Was this the Dale Carnegie book we just talked about?
Oh, I think
thinking about what the other person, thinking about what the other person wants and needs and desires and what outcomes they want. And then presenting our argument with those thoughts in mind is going to be much more beneficial to everyone concerned. We get what we want by helping other people get what they want.
Right. The next one, number 2, is get clear. Number 2 is get crystal clear about the benefits of your offering. And I really believe that sometimes your prospects do not have a clear understanding of the challenge, the options that they have, the desired outcomes that they want, which can include more than one benefit. And it's not always clear to the decision maker about what you are offering to the prospect. However, they're very, very familiar with the problems that they experience and your solution must stick to a problem to have value. And I've seen this time and time again when salespeople do not add context to their solution with a problem that is relevant to a prospect. So you need to provide context, you need to provide an environment and an experience where your solution can stick to a problem. That's how value is defined.
Well, if they're not doing that, they didn't do step one.
Right. Well, that's true too.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they put things in terms of what they want, if they put things in terms of, let me show you all the benefits instead of just the benefits that you find important, then they didn't do step one properly. I do a process in my sales training where we look at 6 benefits. Let's say there's 6 benefits of my product or service, and the customer has identified that they need 3 of those. And number 4, I can also show them how they should have thought of that one. But numbers 5 and 6, they don't give a rat's patoot about.
Mm-hmm.
And if I talk about, so I do benefit 1 and they're nodding their head. Yeah, that's important. Benefit 2, that's important. Benefit 3, that's important. Yeah, and I got them going. And then I talk about benefit 5 and they don't care about it. Then they're shrugging their shoulders. I talk about benefit 6 and they're thinking, maybe this is more expensive than I thought it was, because he's talking about different benefits that don't qualify for me. And now we've got a person who's kind of yes, no, maybe shrugging their shoulders. And what does a confused customer do, Scott?
They walk away.
Nothing. That's right. They walk away. So you've got to focus only on the benefits that you can identify as needful for that customer or that person that you're trying to persuade. Because when you talk about the other ones, you confuse them.
Yeah. I remember when I went into a health club and they said, what brought you into the health club? What are you looking for in a health club? And I said, the hot tub at the health club. So, okay, well, let's go upstairs and look at all the exercise equipment. We got the nod list, we got free weights, and we got classes over here. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I want. Let's get to the hot tub and see how busy the hot tub is. I don't care how busy the machines are. I want to know how big your hot tub is, and I want to know how hot the water is, because that's why I'm going to the health club.
Scott's a tribathlete.
Triathlon.
Tribathlete. He goes to the hot tub, he goes to the swimming pool, he takes a shower, and he's done.
There are different ways to get your heart rate up to 120 beats per minute, and I can do that in the hot tub, and it works. I burn a lot of calories in the hot tub.
There you go.
I digress.
Number 3, Scott?
Okay. Yeah, number 3 is connect with a sense of timeliness and urgency. And I love the negotiation principle about the scarcity law and using lost language, lost aversion. This is very influential. It really demonstrates why it's important to take immediate action, really understanding the cost, consequences, and risk of inaction, and that will create urgency. And constantly, salespeople have got to be creating urgency by creating interest and curiosity in everything that they're offering so that the prospect is excited and wants to buy versus being pressured to be sold. They don't want to be sold. They love to buy. And that's one of the questions when I interview salespeople is, tell me about an experience where you worked with a salesperson and then you just loved the experience. Tell me about it. And,
well, I think too many customers are allowed to think that delay or no decision is free.
Well, yeah.
And it is not free. There is a cost to no decision, whether it's a loss of profitability or a continuation of the pain that you're gonna feel. Yes, I know a decision is difficult, but in my mind, that's what most closing techniques are. They help them understand that there's a sense of urgency and a cost to doing nothing. And if you don't make them feel that pain, then you're going to walk away and you're going to get those 27 phone calls. Hey, Scott, just checking in to see what you're
touching base.
Hey, touching base, thinking about you, just calling, seeing if you're going to ever make a decision, because I didn't help you develop a sense of urgency early on.
Yeah, so true. Number 4 is look for social proof. And this is another influential technique. It's really kind of sound logic at the same time, but social proof, herd theory, and the fear of missing out can all be used to keep people engaged and keeping up with competitors that serve the same audience. Keep in mind, we're competing against other companies that want this same customer. And at the end of a good conversation, a prospect should consider prioritizing how they want to be known in the marketplace and recognize that they cannot afford to be taken advantage of with your solution. And that takes persuasion for a salesperson to be able to convince a prospect that their solution is best and the company is going to look good to their colleagues and look good in the marketplace when they end up working with that company.
Yeah, the fear of missing out is a powerful fear. We felt it since we were kids. And our parents always warned us about don't do it because everyone else is doing it. But yet I see a lot of young people with tattoos. They got them to be different, just like all their friends.
Right. Yeah.
So everyone else is doing it is a powerful desire that we have, and it's not limited to being youthful. It's everyone, right? Keeping
Right.
up with the Joneses. Everyone else is doing it. No one ever got fired for buying IBM. Those are all powerful things that help us make decisions. So the social proof is very powerful. That's part of what your marketing process does. And it also should be helping them feel that they made the right decision after they made it. I think you've used that example about
right after
automobile,
the sale. Yeah.
that half of their advertising is to justify that you made a right decision in buying that brand of car.
Right. And then another one, and another one, and another one. So we need to pick up the pace a little bit. Number 5 is anticipate their objections. And there are 4 types of objections. There's drawbacks, there's misconceptions, there's skepticism, and there's a complaint. And the best way to deal with an objection is before it comes up. So by anticipating their objections, you're demonstrating your experience, and that experience has value. And the familiarity of the process that you go through, because you've done it hundreds of times, a sales prospect's done it once maybe in their lifetime or a few times, but when you really address the objections before they come up, it shows that you're in control of the conversation and you're intentional about prescribing a solution that's relevant without any objections that they should be experiencing or saying.
You really have to think it through. You really have to think it through. When you're setting up your conversation, you have to think, now, what would the reasons be that they want to say no? And some of those are common reasons. But if you're working internally in your company to persuade, you also know some unique reasons why they might hesitate or not make the decision right away. Maybe it's the type of boss they have, or maybe it's the financial situation the organization's in. So think about those and bring those up yourself. If they get brought up by the other person, they have more power. But if you bring them up and knock them down before they say them, then they bring them up again. You can say, well, no, we talked about this earlier.
Exactly. So powerful, Bill. It's so powerful. It's such a great technique in really persuading somebody. That's what you're really doing, is you're persuading something that's good for them, that puts them in a better situation after they make a purchase, when they buy from you. So the last one is provide clear next steps. And this is always the last step of any sales process, is what happens next. We've all heard the studies that salespeople fail to ask for the order. And if it's not ready to place the order, understand what the next steps are. A salesperson has got to control the conversation, and that is leadership. Sales is leadership. So be sure you talk about the next steps, even if it's no. And when it's no and a prospect has to give something up, they feel like they've lost something if they see value. Salespeople, did you hear that? When you go for the no and a prospect has to give up something they perceive as valuable, and you're taking it away from them before they ever bought it, you are going to have a prospect that wants to buy from you because you created a great conversation with them.
I think that for me, the important step is the proposal step. And that provides a clear process that we're going to move through. And I leave a very loose proposal to begin with, because I want that customer or that client to be able to make some changes to it. And once they've made changes to my proposal, now they own it more than they did before. And so when the buyer has a say in the finished product, they like it. And then the last thing I want to say on this is, once you've made that closing question, shut up.
Exactly.
Don't, because so often, I was just doing a practice session with some salespeople the other night, and they asked a closing question, and they didn't even wait before they introduced another question.
Oh,
because they were nervous about, they asked a great closing question and then said, oh, by the way, I had another thought. Oh, by the way, we'll kill you. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. I would have pounced on that. They would have learned that for the rest of their life. I mean, silence is so powerful. Salespeople have got to be comfortable with silence. Please, salespeople, be comfortable with silence.
Everybody except Scott and I, who talk all the time.
Well, we could step on each other because we just, We got stuff to share. We
That's
want
right.
to share.
That's right.
But anyway, those are the 6 steps. We'll conclude the link on our show notes. Again, this is episode 567.
So you'll have a link to that article.
Yeah, I'll put it on our show notes, a link to the Harvard Business Review article on 6 pitching techniques to use when budgets are tight.
All right. Our gold nugget as we close up is from Charles Schwab. And this, he talks about men. So please understand this was written 70 years ago. So I have yet to find a man, however exalted his station, who did not do better work and put forth greater effort under a spirit of approval than under a spirit of criticism. And I just, doing the Dale Carnegie book, I start to think about these things. As I said, I've read it every year. I don't practice it as well as I should, but he really focuses on this eventually, is that you need to give approbation and praise to other people and they'll work harder.
Right. It's amazing. I mean, salespeople always say, I want to be recognized. I said, let's look at your call report from last week. I'm going to recognize you right now. It's a little light. That's
a spirit of criticism, Scott.
I know. It's recognizing them. So everything we talked about will be at winningatselling.com. Again, episode 567. Please check out the show notes and read that article. I think you're really going to like it.
Next week, our book club, How to Win Friends and Influence People, part 2, chapters 2 and 3. And our topic will be the mindset of a sales professional. Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.